God raised Jesus from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly realms, far above all rule and authority, power and dominion, and every title that can be given, not only in the present age, but also in the one to come. These verses from Ephesians chapter 1 describe Christ as having been given dominion over both the present age and the age to come. Now that is a very startling statement. How can Jesus be ruling right now over both the present age and the future age? How is it possible to rule over something that's both present and future? The present age is the age in which sin reigns, and therefore everything is disintegrating. It began with the fall in Genesis 3. As soon as Adam and Eve sinned, they experienced spiritual alienation from God, emotional alienation within, social alienation from one another, and physical alienation from nature. In other words, the present age is the age in which everything falls apart, spiritually and emotionally, socially and physically. In the Old Testament, however, the writers were continually looking forward to a new day, the age to come, when God would return and he would redeem the world and all the alienations and all the disintegrations would be mended. Psalm 96, for example, says that even the natural order will be redeemed. Let the heavens rejoice. Let the earth be glad. Let the sea resound and all that is in it. Let the fields be jubilant and everything in them. Then all the trees of the forest will sing for joy. They will sing before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the peoples in his truth. In this age to come, all the alienations caused by sin will be healed. The entire world with all its dimensions of life will be renewed. Pain will be banished, tears wiped away, and even the trees will sing for joy. When Jesus then came to earth, he brought the power of the age to come into this world, so we can experience it now. When Christ returns to earth, the present age will end completely and the age to come will come fully. Meanwhile, we actually live between the two ages in what's been called the overlap of the ages. How could we live then in this overlap in such a way that our friends, our colleagues, our family, our neighborhoods, and our world, that they would experience this age to come? How could they come to experience an age which Psalm 96 says will have such new life and power that no disease or decay, no poverty, blemish, or pain will be able to survive? How can we do that for them? In Matthew chapter 5, verse 14, Jesus says, we are to be a city on a hill. Now, what does it mean for Christians to be a city that the world can see? That's what it means to say on a hill. What he means is breathtaking. It means we are to be an alternate city where our lives shine forth to show the world the glories of the heavenly city. One day, God is going to unite and heal all things under the lordship of Christ, and currently the church is to model at least partially what that age to come under Jesus Christ will look like. That's what it means to be an alternate city, a city on a hill. So what does that alternate city look like? First, an alternate city is gospel speaking. Sometimes we hide how important Jesus is to us. We just don't talk about him. We talk about many things that are important to us, but we don't naturally talk about Jesus. But to be a city on a hill, we have to find ways to present the gospel to our friends, to the people in our neighborhoods and workplaces. How will we do that? What will the themes be? What will the supportive arguments be? 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15 says, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. If someone asks you to give them the reason you're a Christian, or the reason for the hope you have, or if someone asked you why you believe in the age to come, would you be able to answer sympathetically, yet convincingly, lovingly, yet faithfully? Sometimes when we tell people what we believe, we imply it's true simply because we believe it. When actually, the gospel teaches us that we only believe because of the grace of God. And therefore, we need to speak to everyone without superiority and with extreme gentleness. Second, an alternate city is neighbor loving. Jesus always embraced the moral and the spiritual outsider. So in Matthew chapter 5, verse 47, he says, "If you greet only your brothers, what are you doing more than others?" Now, since the Jewish greeting was shalom and an embrace, Jesus is saying quite a lot here. Ask yourself this question. How do you greet your neighbors in such a way that it's like an embrace? How do you bring peace to your neighbors? Even if they don't believe, even if they're the kind of people that others ignore. And how will you bring emotional, social, and spiritual healing to your neighborhood and thereby be a sign of the age to come? Thirdly, an alternate city is community transformed. Jesus prays in John chapter 17, verse 17, about his disciples, and he says, "Sanctify them by the truth, your word is truth." Then in verse 18, he immediately says, "As you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world." Do you see what Jesus is doing? He's not sending his disciples out into the world to share their faith and then praying that they be articulate and eloquent. He's sending them out into the world to share their faith and praying that they would be sanctified, that they would be holy. Why? There is a credibility that comes if you're consistent in your behavior. There is a credibility that comes if people see the gospel transforming you. You say you're a Christian. You say you believe the gospel. But has the gospel made you kinder? Does it lead you to treat people better? Does it help you face trouble? Does it help you face death? What is your life saying to others about what you believe? If you're not living a very attractive life because you're living an inconsistent life, because you're a grumpy person, or because you're an unbelievably frightened person, or because you're an extremely undisciplined person, what does that say to others about what you believe? But we're not only to be witnesses, quote unquote, by our individual lives, but through our communal lives together. How are we living our lives together as Christians? Paul in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 says this, and I want to paraphrase it. He says, "Offer your collective bodies as a single living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God." See, he's saying present your bodies, plural, to be a sacrifice, singular. He's saying we're to take our lives, plural, and unite them into a single sacrifice. And then he concludes, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This means our community is to demonstrate an alternative to the world's way of living. The gospel should affect and modify and revise and change everything about us so that when we get together as a community, we're supposed to be constantly rethinking the implications of the gospel on every single aspect of our lives. So do we as a community stand out from the world around us? Is every part of our communal life transformed by the gospel? For example, in the world, women tend to be attracted to men with good incomes, and men tend to be attracted to women with good looks. Is the Christian community behaving in exactly the same way? Or have we been transformed by the gospel? Another example, power relationships. In the world, the wealthy and the prominent call all the shots. Is it the same in the church, or have we been transformed by the gospel? Do the power relationships inside the church just reflect what you see in the surrounding world? You see the city on a hill. When Jesus speaks about that, he's talking about a way to model an alternate kind of human society, an alternate way to do virtually everything: business, sexuality, race relations, art, conflict resolution, everything. So, if we want to really help people get a glimpse of the age to come, we need gospel speaking neighbor-loving, community-transformed communities everywhere, in every neighborhood, nook and cranny. And that's the reason, by the way, why church planting, which is the planting of new communities, is so important. Could you encourage your church in planting new congregations? Could you be part of a new church financially and personally? Here's the bottom line. Jesus' command to be witnesses is a communal command. When he says, be a city, that is not something that an individual Christian can do on his or her own. You might be obedient to Jesus as an individual, but the question is, are we being communally disobedient? So in our time between the present age and the age to come, we need to build an alternate city together.